Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and to ages of ages. Amen. We celebrate today the life of Cornelius, the centurion, the story of his conversions in the book of Acts. He had a vision of Peter and was told to, because he was a devout man who had really adopted at least the Jewish understanding of God, and he was told to send a delegation to invite Peter to his house. And Peter had fallen asleep on the top of the house where he was in his apostolic ministry, and had a vision about God telling him to kill and eat. And Peter said, no, these animals are unclean, can't do that, they're not kosher. And God said, nothing I've made is unclean. And when he woke up, Cornelius' delegation was knocking at the door. And of course, Peter, the next day he had him in for the night. The next day he and his group went and preached Christ to them and baptized them. Cornelius subsequently gave up all of the privileges of being a Roman centurion and became part of the apostolic ministry of the early church. And he was consecrated by Peter as a bishop of Skep, and he actually converted a prince from the royal family by the name of Demetrius, and 22 other people. And of course he was subject to a great deal of persecution, including physical beatings by the pagans, but he lived a long and productive life for Christ, and he was one of the first ones that the Holy Spirit told him at the time of his death. And so he was able to gather those he had converted and his disciples together to give him his parting message and to join the Lord in peace at the end of his life. We also celebrate today the consecration of the Church of the Holy Resurrection in Jerusalem. And the origin of that church is Constantine had wanted to recover the places of Christ in the Holy Land. And so he sent his mother, the Empress Mother Helene, to the Holy Land. And she proceeded to do the work to discover the places. And of course a pagan temple, I've forgotten to which pagan god, was built by the Romans over the place of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection. And she had it torn down and was determined to build a monumental church to both the crucifixion and resurrection. Even in those early days, she had right what the principal events of our salvation were. And she also had churches built in Gethsemane and Bethlehem, the Mount of Olives, and a number of other places commemorating the ministry and events of Christ. We celebrate today the forefeast of the Elevation of the Holy Cross, which has to do with her discovery of the true cross, which was part of the process of building the Church of the Holy Resurrection. Unfortunately, the construction of it outlived her. It only was finished and consecrated 30 years after her death. And it turned out that there was a regional council of bishops in Tyre, and they all came to Jerusalem for the consecration, and it became a big event. But today we remember that event of the consecration of the church. Now that church no longer exists because over the years it's been torn down and rebuilt and torn down and rebuilt. But there is a church as a result of Constantine's dream and his mother's work over the place of the resurrection and crucifixion, which is a place today of pilgrimage from Christians of all kinds of backgrounds in Jerusalem. And it really has to do with their desire, given what they had known about how you honor gods, building huge monuments, monumental temples. They did it to Christ in the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit. Glory to thee.